Yeah, I'm just going to tell my story and try and pull out a few learnings from it. And mine is the story of a family business. So I didn't set up at 24. I was in India somewhere being a hippie, I think, at 24. So I wanted to take you back to 1992 and the history of our company. So my dad started a company called Cool Screen Blinds. He was actually a salesman. He sold for Everest double glazing. No, I know. So he is the ultimate salesman. He is a double glazing salesman. And he went to Hampton Court Flower Show, first Hampton Court Flower Show, and worked the Everest stand there and saw some blinds that they'd put in the conservatory. And he'd been selling conservatories and thought, well, great idea. And he was a bit fed up with Everest. So he started selling the blinds as the southern agent for the blind company. This was before Thomas Arneson, because Thomas Arneson, if that's a name that a lot of people recognise, was actually started also by an ex-Everest double glazing salesman, and took it and ran with it and made a lot of money, which Dad never managed to do. So he saw this opportunity, started the business, and grew it out of his spare room, basically. I then worked there for a summer whilst I was at university. I did a thick sandwich course, so you work from April to September. And then I worked for him for 9 months after I graduated until I went off travelling. It was him, me and my uncle the first time round, and the second time he'd got his first shop, and I put in the accounts package, because before that I'd been doing double entry bookkeeping. Don't ask me to do it now, wouldn't have a clue. And then so I got Sage in, and I hired his first bookkeeper. Just before that, he changed the name to Premier Blinds, but we still have customers calling us to this day saying, is that Cool Screen Blinds? Because I still have the same phone number. Is that Cool Screen Blinds? I've still got your blinds. They still work, but one of the little bit plastic's broken or something like that. Anyway, I went off travelling, came back, went out into the big wide world and did marketing for software houses. Very different, up in London, living the life. And I had a job that I absolutely adored for a Norwegian company. I was travelling Europe. And then on my 30th birthday, they kindly made me redundant, which was the second time I'd been made redundant in a few years. And I hadn't seen this one coming, so I literally grieved for it for about a month. I think I just sobbed. But I was 30, it was November, there wasn't much to do. I did a bit of temping. And then in the spring, Dad said, why don't you come and tell me what I'm doing wrong? So I did. There was quite an ominous. One of the things was he used to make blinds in those days, and his production manager was actually stealing from him. So literally whole boxes of fabric were being left around the side of the factory, and the guy was taking them home and making blinds from them, and he hadn't realised. So whilst Dad is a great salesman, he's also a very trusting man and hadn't noticed this was going on. Told him a lot about his marketing. Obviously, I came from a software, although I worked in marketing for a fax software house. So this was when it was really exciting that you didn't need to use a fax machine. You could actually do it straight from your computer. So I'm not 24, you can tell. He really wasn't. I mean, he never used a computer his whole career. So I kind of sat him down, told him some thoughts, and he said, well, you better stay here and fix it. And I'm still there, still doing it. I had my first son in 2004, and then I was pregnant with my second son in 2007, and I knew that he had overtraded. He kept me quite out of the business. I was allowed to do marketing, I was allowed to do a bit of selling, but he was really limiting me. Plus I had a young child, so I was a bit part-time. But I knew he had overtraded in 2006. One of the things working in the blind business is I'm really sad. I remember summers. When's a good one? When's a bad one? 2006 was a heat wave, a bit like 2018. You remember it?
I worked in air conditioning and had the sun channel.
Yeah. It was. So we were just rushed off our feet. He just brought staff in willy-nilly, random people, paid them whatever they wanted. And I knew when I went to have my child that it was all coming to a crunch point, because our recession actually started April 2007, when it started raining, and it rained all that summer. So we'd had a really hot summer, 2006. Everybody had bought in the spring of 2007, and then it just didn't stop raining that whole summer. So I had my baby, had 2 weeks off, and then went back to work. We then got taken to an employment tribunal by a friend of his, basically. The husband and wife worked both in the business. She took us to a tribunal. He carried on working for us. I'm always going to tell you a sob story, but we lost big time, having taken my baby into the court, not into the courtroom, but I had to breastfeed in the toilets at the courtroom. That was really a bit of an experience. You know, my mum came wheeling in the pram to the room with all the lawyers in their suits, and it was me and my baby and my mum, because we were representing ourselves, which we'd been advised to do. Don't ever represent yourself at a tribunal. Get a hot solicitor. Anyway, so I knew he was in trouble. I found somebody to talk to him about it, and they said, "What do you want to do long term with this business, Cliff?" And he said, "I want to give it to my daughter." So they said, "Right, at this point, you should go insolvent." And obviously that was a very difficult thing for him to do. Probably have more respect for how difficult it was. But we did it pretty ethically. We paid everybody off. But I basically bought the company off the administrators. And that was in March 2008. I had a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. And yeah, therefore I was the boss. No, I wasn't. It might have been mine in name, but Dad still today probably still thinks he's the boss, quite frankly. And we were right in the middle of the recession. That was a horrendous time. I mean, 2009, it felt like the phones had been switched off at times. We dropped over 45% of our turnover. And it was another crap summer, yeah. It was really difficult. And he and I blamed each other a lot. We would fight. We're very similar. We are very close, but we're very similar. And like any family, you take it out on your nearest and dearest. You two work together. I don't know how you do it, but you go home and you know each other's buttons to push. Anyway, we carried on. As I say, he was the ultimate salesman. Which was difficult in an argument. Even from when I was a kid, I used to go in with a list if I needed to talk to him about it, because he'd just sell me his side of the story. He was that good. And he'd promise me things and then literally the next day go and do something different. So it wasn't like having a normal employee. He was my employee, but he was a renegade, an absolute renegade, and he would go behind my back. Didn't help that he lived above the premises. So his habit was sometimes at the weekend, sometimes in the evening, literally going around the office looking at bits of paper. The only thing was he couldn't use a computer, so I used to keep it all on the computer. But he would just interfere. He would undermine me in front of my staff. But he kept on selling. He was always my best salesman by a long way. So we got to 2016 and he was 71. But he still wanted to work, so he'd done a bit of part-time and kept coming back and then having a break and coming back. And then finally we actually moved premises. So I was out from him. He wasn't my landlord. He wasn't physically there. I didn't give him a key. And he'd been trying to slow down, but he couldn't do it. He was really scared of retiring. So he was really just selling at that point, but then would interfere. And he's just got this way of getting in my head. And so we moved premises, and in the end we ended up having a massive row in the car park. He had undermined me for the last time in front of a staff member, and God knows what our new neighbours thought, but it was a bit of a humdinger. And I got a text, I quit. I finished at the end of May. I said, "No, you don't. You're fired. You finished at the end of April," which was a couple of days' time. And that was the best thing for both of us, quite frankly. So the one thing, I mean, we didn't talk probably for at least a week. I had chucked him out my house before that. We'd had a big row at home as well, and I said I didn't want to talk to him in front of my children, my husband. So yeah, it was difficult. I wouldn't ever recommend handing over to your children or going into business with a partner unless you're very clear on your boundaries and you can respect, because ultimately it affected some of our relationship. What I'm glad to say is since then he's actually moved down to 2 miles away from me. He's now just my dad and my children's grandfather, and we're absolutely fine. But it was a hard slog to get there. It was many years, and it's held the business back. Ultimately, it's undermined me, and I didn't realise quite so much until he had properly retired, and I started seeing my reaction to things, and my thoughts about things, and like some of my tolerances, because I couldn't control him, I let my staff get away with stuff, things like that. And one of the things that I did that probably helped draw a line, other than moving, was last year I changed the name. So Premier Blinds was always a bit naff. Never liked it. I did create the logo. That was the second coming in the logo, that one there. But there was a lot of Premier Blinds, and then one of them got done by Trading Standards for a child safety issue. So obviously that came up on Google, and it just didn't mean much. I mean, what does Premier Blinds mean? So we changed the name to Wiser, and that has been really good. It went. I drive to work, and it was a name I came up with. So we wanted to do smart blinds, but there's a lot of smart things out there, and so I came up with this name, Wiser. And the definition of Wiser is having or showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment, which I hope all our customers feel like they're doing when they work with us. And it was to reflect that we weren't just a blind company, we were a motorised blind company. We were very specialised. And our core purpose, so we did a lot of branding around it and thinking about it, and our core purpose is making lives better. So better for our customers living in their own homes, much more enjoyable, being smart about how they actually control the blinds, live with the blinds and curtains, making lives better for our suppliers, because we have a core team of suppliers, and we spend a lot with them, making my staff's lives better. So I've got from 15 years to a couple of months working for me, making the community better. I pay a lot of tax and have done over the years, so that's part of it, giving back. And making my families better. So the business supports my mum, my dad, me, my husband, and my children. It supports all of those. So it's really important to us. So that's the history. Bottom one. Where is it now? Okay. So Wiser, we consistently turn over 1.2 to 1.4 million. And I know that's quite a large number, but it's not all about the turnover, because that's Valentine. Fundamentally, it is a lifestyle business. I am very hands-on, from answering the phone to maybe not making the tea. I did put my foot down on that, but dealing with customer complaints, all of it. As a business model, it's not great. As I said earlier, some of my customers had their blinds for 30 years and they don't think they need changing. I want something that breaks after 2 years and they keep coming back, really. Not that lasts for friggin' ever and they think we're wonderful for it. So the recurring income is very low, although we do work our existing customer database. There's no recurring income, there's no residual value. And blind companies aren't a great thing to sell. They're not known for selling for high value, because you're always waiting for that next sale. I won't be passing it on to my children. I wouldn't want to saddle them with that. They're more than welcome to come and work in it for a bit, but I think I've learnt a lot from working with my own dad. I did try working with my husband. That was a disaster as well. That lasted about 6 months. And then I got him another job because I couldn't face that. It took a long time to shake off the issues of having worked with Dad. And I'm probably even still now, a couple of years on, still thinking about it. We have tried many things over the years, And that picture, I think, was really good of the miner. We've tried many strategies. We are more organised than ever. I mean, we have everything documented. We have the processes organised. Following Robin's talk this time last year, the habits, we have good habits. We know our numbers. We have meetings in place and all of that kind of stuff. Our marketing's really good. We have got constant inquiries, and Ash has made me realise, we've got the inquiries coming in, which it's all about the sales for us. That's the difficulty bit. But marketing is increasingly expensive, we're finding, and I have made some humdingers of mistakes over the years, and I'm still making them. It's not that you ever get it right. You do what you think is right. You do your research, and then in hindsight, you learn, don't you? I don't think any of us are perfect. Staffing is always a nightmare. I never think I've got it sussed, however good my team is. Two of the guys started working for Dad, actually, whilst I was on my first maternity leave. So I know how long it's been because my son is now 15. So we've been working together 15 years. We have been through marriages, childbirth, divorce, death with those two. And they're very loyal, drive me potty. But, we've been up through the ups and downs with it. But they do, I think behind my back, they call me Hatchet Ellen, because they reckon they've seen 120 other staff members come and go. Not all my fault. So there's been some stories, but I won't bore you with those. And staffing is one of those things. I do take responsibility, and I try and fix stuff in the business. But in 2017, we had more days lost to sickness than we did staff holiday. And it was just random things, from a tennis injury to a full-blown heart attack to cellulitis. It wasn't work-related. They were just random, and it mainly hit the sales team. And it was just one thing after... at one point, I let Dad come back for a month. That was a great learning for both of us. We knew it was over after that. Because I was down to one salesperson from 4. 3 of them had gone lame on me in the same month. And they were literally just ill. And there was nothing that I could do. I couldn't recruit fast enough to replace them for that short time, because you don't know how long they're going to be off. And those are in the entrepreneur circle. I don't know if you remember, but I put out a post saying, I just want a bit of woo-woo. So I have a kind of spiritual mad side to me. And I just wanted a bit of woo-woo. So I found a bit of woo-woo. I found 2 ladies that came into the building and did a bit of crystal shaking. And then they ended up putting crystals around the building. So there was a bit of energy clearance. I don't know, it was like 60 quid or something. And I just thought, you know what? It'll be a bit of fun. And they told me that it was the previous occupant of the unit was giving bad vibes, and that's why the spiders were in that corner. We had a lay-lie down there. The funniest thing was when they left, the estate that we were on, I had to lock up. I got out of the car, put the key, and I thought, they were hiding behind a bush. I said, do you need to use the toilet? They said, no, we're putting crystals under the bushes so nothing can even get into the industrial estate. Great. I have no idea if it worked. We are a lot healthier now, but it gave us all a bloody good laugh. They all think I'm completely mad and enjoy working for me, obviously. And it just made me feel like I was doing something, because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't fix cellulitis. I'm no doctor. But it did make me feel like I was doing something. And and they still laugh about it today. So I think we've lost all the crystals now. But anyway, so... I will go to any extreme, including a bit of woo-woo for my business. So this year has also been really hard. Dad was actually really ill, so he's had bowel cancer and had to have a pacemaker. And luckily he's close, but that has been ongoing for a year. And on top of that, I've actually had my first health issues that I've ever had. So I've been an incredibly lucky person throughout my life in health-wise. On a bit of asthma, I've been incredibly robust. And this summer I got hit with a bit of mental health, actually. And it was a struggle. and it's been a struggle to deal with. So normally this person who will do anything for our business, including getting crystals put around her building, can get out of bed. And the business has probably been impacted by that, but it's been a difficult year in the business anyway. We've been affected by Brexit, building works down, the sun hasn't shone so much. And so, you know, it just goes like that, doesn't it? We all go through these ups and downs and rounds and rounds. We had a big record in turnover last year, and I was investing to scale up, and now this year I've scaled it right back down. I've never had so few staff as I've now got. I'm going into January with the fewest staff that I've got. But actually my business is changing, and we've got a lot more capacity to do more with less. And so I am using that. I never planned for it. I mean, when I first took the business on, I was going to have 10 shops. I had 3. Couldn't make money out of any of them. And shut production and then carried on and shut the shops. We now work out of an industrial unit. You know, the model has changed over the years, and we've had to change with it. So, go back to your comment about cash. That's very true. If you've read Phil Knight's Shoe Dog book about Nike, there was a couple of things that really resonated in that book. But, you know, Nike, huge company, he still had cash flow problems. You know, whether you're turning over £10,000 or £10 trillion, I think you always have cash flow problems. It's just the amount and maybe where you have to go to get help with that cash flow. So if I say, you know, I've said I've got 1.2 million turnover, it doesn't mean that I haven't got cash flow problems. And in fact, how the business has changed, it's become much more lumpier. We've gone from a £600 average order value to a 3,200. When you're waiting for a 20,000, I mean, we're fitting at the moment a £20,000 job today and tomorrow, and I'm not going to get paid for 40 days. My cash flow is very different from what it was when I was getting £10 in, 50 quids, and 10 years ago. So that is very different. So that's now. Where are we going? It's a very simple story. Where we've been, where we going, where we're going. I'm definitely an unemployable entrepreneur, I've realised. So Emma, if you're doing it at 24, you probably won't ever have a real job, or what other people class as a real job. But I'm okay about it, actually, because, people have told me I wouldn't be able to work for anybody else. And to the extent that I'm actually launching a new business in January, and this one's going to be mine. So over the last 18 months, I've had a passion project. I've been really interested in electric vehicles and renewable energy, so clean tech, that kind of thing. And I've just been reading a lot and going to exhibitions and talking to people and seeing things. And I'm hoping I'm making my own luck because, like Emma, we have a forum in the blind industry, and somebody mentioned about this product they'd seen on Kickstarter, which actually I had 6 months ago, and I hadn't really followed it up at that point, and it just reminded me. By that evening, I'd contacted the person. We are now going into partnership. He's got the distribution rights from the UK. I'm bringing another product into it. So we have found these 2 products that bridge my gap between being a smart blind company to solar power generation and electric vehicles and where that's going to go. So we're going to have a solar blind, which generates electricity, and a solar carport. And I'm not going to be installing them. I'm not going to have many staff. I probably hopefully need any staff. So the business model is going to be much more recurring, and it's not going to be a lifestyle business. This is a business to grow, to sell in 5 years. We're very focused on that. It also probably takes in some of my woo-woo side. So I'm feeling a little bit more authentic because, I fell into the blinds business because of Dad. And I could bore you forever about blinds because I know so much. I've been doing it so long. But it wasn't really me. It wasn't my passion. I don't really care what business I run. Whereas this is, I'm worried about climate change. And I believe that renewable energy could really change a lot. Politics, demographics, climate change. And I've got 2 children. I want to do something about it. And so my purpose for it is pretty strong. And I also see that there's opportunities. As an entrepreneur, the noise that has happened this year, in particular about climate change, must mean that there's opportunities out there. And so that's why I've been asking lots of questions. The UN has 17 global goals, if you're interested. So they range from poverty to water to renewable energy to education to women's rights and all that kind of thing. And I found that one goal, which is renewable energy, that I'm really interested in. And I believe that if I can do my little bit as an entrepreneur, and if we all did our little bits, then we can fix it. So I'm going to launch this business in January, which is probably a bit mad, but is also very exciting. It will also help the existing company. So one of my boring things, I'm a European Solar Shading Organisation Certified Advisor, or an ESSO Certified Advisor. Don't say it after a few drinks because I get stuck on the S's. And basically it's about dynamic shading. So of course the solar blinds and all the rest of it is all part of that and reducing. So I've really found this bridging product, and this is what's exciting, to the extent that on Friday I had a conversation with a chap who's been testing one in the UK for 6 months, and he's potentially looking at 350 units at £1,500 a unit. So I think this business might work, which is really good. I will maintain Wiser. I fall in and out of love with it. It supports my family, as I said. And I do realise that to have survived 12 years now with that level of turnover puts us in a very small group. I think there's only about 40,000 companies in the UK over £1 million turnover, and not many of those will have lasted for 12 years. So I do know that, there is something residual there. It's just, is it worth anything to anybody else? But it's certainly worth something to me for quite a while yet. And my mantras, at the moment, this too will pass. So if I'm not feeling very well, or if it's a tough day, this too will pass. Times get better, and you go up and down that roller coaster. And then my dad's favourite saying was, every problem's solvable. And it really is. You just sometimes need to take a deep breath and maybe have a sleep on it. Have a pity party, I would say. Go and have a cry in the toilet, and then off you go. So that's the story. I just wanted to pull out a few learnings for me. One of them is imposter syndrome. This time last year, when I sat where you are listening, made me realise I really suffer from imposter syndrome. I don't celebrate my successes enough, or at all. I focus on my failures, and I also get pretty competitive when I measure against other people of what I perceive other people to be like. What their reality, is probably completely different. And we probably all feel that. So don't measure yourself, please don't. Phil Knight, again, in the Nike story, at one point he was being treated like a business god for Nike. He was on the edge of a breakdown, which he ultimately had. That we're not gods. None of us are gods. None of them are gods. Emma, with you sitting there with somebody from the Hilton family or whatever, they're just people. And yeah, it's just about the amount of money. And the media and everything, and all the books you've read, you never just write. Nobody's ever written a book about I was a failure and I still am. I've never had a success in my life. You get a lot of I was a failure and then, yeah, maybe write that one. But it's I was a failure, but now I'm a success. You always get there in the end, whoever's written it. But as small business owners, you are doing something which most people might say that they would like to do. They might dream of it, but they probably won't ever take that leap. So however you get into it, whether it's because your dad asked you many, many years ago to come and help him out, or whether you saw an opportunity and went for it, be proud of that. And to do it, you need resilience. I describe myself as a peach and other people as a tunnock, as in tunnock biscuits. So the tunnocks, you know, they have that chocolate shell and a biscuit base and marshmallow. So they seem really good, but you crack them and they're just marshmallow. So they seem really hard on the outside, but really they're very soft on the inside. When you poke them, you know, they soon crumble. And that biscuit base is just about being stubborn and egotistical. Whereas I'm a peach, I'm pretty soft. I'm, you know, fluffy on my woo-woo side. But fundamentally, I know deep down, I will do anything. I've got a core strength. And as long as I'm well, and even when I'm not well, I will fight to do it. And I've turned enough situations round just by thinking maybe laterally or just calmly and a bit of common sense, by having that strong kernel and believing that we can get through it. Sometimes that means I take too much responsibility. I really was thinking about your thing today. I need to take responsibility for keeping other people accountable, not just doing it for them, because that's the easiest way. Over, I could do it quicker myself. Off you go and do it. That's not the right way. So I'm still having to try and learn that and practice that. But I have become more intolerant, and that helps with my resilience because I won't put up with too much shit anymore. And Dad leaving the business has helped with that, because he undermined me and because he messed with my head. I would always be tolerant of others because they were getting mixed messages. Now they don't. I'm the only boss. If they don't do it my way, they're out. Which is why I've gone through so many staff, probably. And then finally, risk-taking. Keep on trying. There's no right way unless you're looking at it in hindsight, and then you go, of course, that's how I should have done it. Don't forget you only hear about other people's successes, not their failures, unless you're lucky enough to be in this room. And just keep on trying, keep on learning, build that support network. And ultimately what I've learned this year is ask for help, because people will be there for you, and are very understanding. And taking a step back for a couple of weeks and asking for a bit of help, you'll come back a lot stronger and you can still carry on doing it. So that's me. If you want to email or link in, feel free.